Hi, this is Trey Pass. Welcome to my review with spoilers of Doom Patrol Episode 8 called Danny Patrol. This episode has a lot of different, I guess it has two main stories in it. The first one is this episode is called Danny Patrol. Okay, and Danny Patrol just happens to be a street, kind of a sentient. It's a street that's sort of alive and can communicate, and it's sort of a place for queer, drag queens, and whoever else wants to come there, and he protects them. And he's being hunted, this street named Danny, by this Bureau of Normalcy. It's called that. That's what it's called. And we see in the beginning of the episode where we see this agent. He's going in to, I guess, infiltrate this street named Danny to see what's going on. But then something happens in the street, and the agent completely vanished. So this street named Danny can actually go from place to place. Okay, and at the same time, we're also, where we see Cliff, he's getting sewn up, or riveted, I guess, up by Vic, and, he's kind of mad at the fact that, well, he's kind of lamenting that he yelled at Jane. He kind of wants to make it up to her, and he's, asking Vic, do you think she's still mad at me? I never had a rat inside me before, and if you saw the last episode, that was the rat that was seeking revenge for him running over his mother. And he was sent there by Mr. Nobody. But anyway, Vic wants to kind of make it up to Jane. He wants to apologize and see if there can be back on the right foot. But when he goes to look for her, he gets a phone call from a person named Karen, who basically tells him that she's getting married, and she needs Rita to be there and show up for dinner, and she's meeting. I forgot the boyfriend's name, but I think it's Larry. I think it's Larry. No, it's not Larry. I forgot what it is. It's not Larry. I forgot the boyfriend's name, but that's not important. The important part is that she tells Cliff to tell Rita that I need her to come over around 6:30 to help me, to come over for dinner, because she's having dinner with the parents of her boyfriend. Her on and off again boyfriend, and we find, of course, that Karen is another personality of Crazy Jane, sort of a rom-com blonde, glitzy blonde who's absolutely crazy. And we see when she actually shows up to this boyfriend's house, and he sees her, he's about to leave the house. He's leaving the house, and she shows up, and it's raining, and she tells him, "Listen, I know I left you the last time, but this time it's going to be different." And he kind of doesn't want anything to do with her, but then she kind of uses her power. I guess her powers, this Karen personality, her powers is that she can persuade people. She can change their mood. And then he changes his mind and say, "You know what?" Okay. And they hug it out, and they go in his house. And then we also find that Rita, she explains to Cliff that, this Karen personality is like this rom-com 90s blonde housewife, kind of ditzy kind of girl, and she's had this on and off again thing with this boyfriend, and every time it ends badly, and she breaks up with him. Okay, so Cliff decides to go with her over there to the house, because he wants to apologize to Jane to see if he can break through to Jane, and to get to Jane's personality and apologize for what happened within the therapy session they had last episode. Meanwhile, we have Cliff and Cyborg. They get sent to Kate to their house. Actually, we see Larry, excuse me, not Cliff. It's Larry and Cyborg. First of all, we see Larry. He's having flashbacks, and it's sort of a nightmare when he gets kidnapped, and he's taken by this unit, this Bureau of Normalcy. Okay, and they're basically kidnapping him and said that entity inside you, we're going to use that entity inside you to do good for the government. And they basically he said, "Listen, I don't want to do it." He said, "You don't have no choice. You signed up for the army, and this is part of it." And so you see them dragging up, and you see them literally torturing him to try to get that spirit to come out. Okay, and so they can use it. And then, meanwhile, when he wakes up from this nightmare, you see the present day, him and Larry and Cyborg. There's a knock on the door, and there's a cake left. A cake. From an area in Ohio. It's called Danny, Ohio, I think it's called, a street. It has an address in the street. So they actually, and they actually go to it because they think it's a clue to the chief, where the chief may be. So they go to the, they go to the street. They actually, Cyborg looks on his through his computer, through his brain, and see there's no street on the map that's placed, but they said they figure this might be a clue to finding Niles, the chief. So they actually, they go to that street, and then that's when they find out that the street exactly is that it's literally the street named Danny, who was, they go to the street, and then they go to this club. I forgot what they call the club, but they go to this club where you see a bunch of drag queens performing and stuff, and singing songs and just generally being themselves. And when it's over, the headliner he comes to the table because he spots the two new people there, and then that's when we find out that this new person, this new drag queen, is actually the agent that we saw in the beginning of the episode. He actually was sent. He explains to Cyborg and Larry that he was actually sent. He was actually sent there to to try to infiltrate the street named Danny. But once he was there, Danny showed him and allowed him to be his true self, and that's why he became fully a drag queen fully, and that's his personality. And he says he's here to protect everybody here too. So he's never going back to the agency, and he wants to do everything else to help the street named Danny. Okay, and that's what this place is. The street named Danny is a place where people can be themselves and not have to worry about the government, this Bureau of Normalcy, trying to capture him and figure them out. And we also see, the street named Danny. They start questioning, and the street responds on signs and on window signs and everything else. And they try to ask, and they ask him, and they basically said that he sent the cake to them because he needs Niles' help to fight this Bureau of Normalcy. And they tell the street named Danny, listen, we're looking for the chief's been taken by this Mr. Nobody, so we can't really, the chief can't help you because he's been kidnapped by, Mr. Nobody, so we can't really help you. And then they asked him, well, can you help us, find this Mr. Nobody? And then the street named Danny says, listen, there's some battles I don't want to fight and don't want to get involved with. I don't want to risk these people in my street that live in my street. I don't want to risk their, by going up against Mr. Nobody, which I thought was makes Mr. Nobody even more formidable. And then we also see later when they're sitting in the club, they asked Larry to perform. Since you're here in the club, you have to perform. And first, Larry kind of turns down and says he doesn't sing, but then he actually performs. And then you see the actual actor, Matthew, I forgot his name, the actor who does the voice for Mr. Negative Man. You actually see him, and he performs a number with the former agent, and it's a great number. And it's, again, this show is basically exceeding expectations because this, the performance and who comes up with, I don't know if that's a street named Danny is in the Doom Patrol comic, which I assume it probably is. That's why they use that. But that whole concept of a street being a place where LGBT characters can go and and be themselves and be free, and we get to see Negative Man after all the trauma he's been put through. He gets to perform a song where he says he's free to be himself and he doesn't have to hide, and it's a really spectacular dance and song number between him and the former agent and a bunch of other performers, and it's really actually well done. And then we flash back to Rita going to the house with Karen and her boyfriend, and she's preparing to get preparing for dinner to meet his parents and stuff, and she's nervous. And Cliff actually shows up with Rita, and she tells him, listen, since her personality doesn't really know Robot Man that well, she said, listen, you may freak the parents out, so you're gonna have to wait outside. And literally, you see him waiting outside, even though he's gonna sit there and wait because he wants to apologize to Jane. Once if he can get through to her personality, he wants to apologize for what happened last episode. And then, but you also see again, Rita is trying to kind of talk her down, and talk Karen down and say, listen, maybe you don't want to do this. And of course she snaps, and then she actually reverts. The Hammerhead personality comes back out of Karen, and she basically threatens Rita and says, listen, you better stop this wedding. You better get Karen in line, and because if I wind up getting, the way she says it, if she gets wound up getting effed, that she's gonna F up Rita. and then of course she reverts back to the Karen personality. Okay, and so Rita is trying to basically talk her down, and Karen kind of snaps at her, but then Rita kind of says yes, she basically calls her, I think, a dried up harpy or something like that, and Rita basically kind of agrees and says, you know what, I know what I am, and it kind of, and she sort of apologizes to her, but then the whole family, her boyfriend's family, is against her getting married because she actually asked her boyfriend to marry her in front of the parents at the dinner, and her parents and the sister, I think his sister, are freaking out and saying, no, there's no way, this girl always keeps doing this to you all the time, bringing you happiness and then walking away from you, leaving you devastated. So walk away from this. But then Karen, again, her powers, one of her powers is like she can literally change people's minds, and she used her powers on her boyfriend's family, and then they are all gun ho for this wedding to take place. And outside we see Cliff, aka Robot Man. He's on the porch, basically thinking about the perfect apology to say to Jane, when there's actually a kid that's dressed up like, I think this kid passed by before. I have to watch the episode again to see, but I think he passed by before and saw him on the stoop. So he comes back dressed up literally like a robot man, and they basically have like a dance off. And only on this show can you see a kid and Robot Man have a dance off. Okay, because the kid does a dance, and then he asks, "Can you do better?" He said, "Well, I've seen Flash dance like 86 times." Yeah, and they literally have this kid and Cliff have a dance off, which is absolutely hysterical to watch. Okay. Anyway, back into Danny Street, we see after Larry performs, they get ready to leave, but we see that the agents have found where Danny Street is, and they're prepared to basically overrun the street and and take over. But at first the former agent is saying, listen, I'll give myself up and go into the agency, and then I'll dissuade them, so that way Danny can have a chance to get away. But then they kind of Cyborg and Larry convinces him to stay and fight, and he does, and he winds up winning. Okay, and the street is safe for the people again, and so that ends that portion of it. And then we flash back to the wedding, which is getting ready to take place. Okay, when all of a sudden Karen, she's having trouble staying. Her personality is having trouble staying present. She keeps slipping back to other personalities, and then you see inside of her mind where you see her personality gets dragged down a long, narrow hallway where you see her basically fall, and you see in current present day, it's Jane, and she looks like she's catatonic. So it looks like the Karen personality got wiped out, got basically dragged down to the pit of all our other personalities, which leaving Jane completely blank. Okay, and that's how it ends. Again, this show is just amazing with this with the stuff that they come up with. This show is so well written and so well acted. It is like literally the best show on TV to me. It's just so well written and so well produced and acted. It's just amazing. This Danny Street thing, that came out of nowhere. Like I said, why didn't we read the Doom Patrol comics? Well, maybe that is it. That is in the Doom Patrol comics, or even if they made it for the show, somebody can at least tell me down below if they made that up for the show, or which they probably didn't. It's probably part of the comic book, and it's absolutely fabulous. And you got to see some fabulous performance. Matthew Bonner, that's his name. I can't remember his last name. Matthew Bonner, who plays Negative Man, who does the voice. You actually got to see him in person when they had the musical number towards the end of the episode. And you got to see him perform. You got to see him sing and dance, which is nice. You get to see that. And again, this show's so well done, and it is literally the best thing on the DC streaming service. It literally really is. This episode was excellent. Okay, I can't wait to see it, because I guess the next episode is going to be they're going to have to go into Crazy Jane's mind to bring her personality back up, because it looks like all these different personalities are going to be fighting for dominance. And again, so again, it looks like it's going to be a good episode, the next episode. Anyway, let me know what you think of episode, I think this was 8, right? Episode 8. Hold on, let me just verify that because I watched it last night. Yeah, episode 8 called Danny Patrol. What do you think of it? Feel free to leave comments down below. And if you like this review, please hit the subscribe button down below. I have links to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, and in the description box as well as a link to my other channel, Paul's Views and Opinions. Please check that out as well. And this is Trey Pastor saying so long and take care.